here with my sister, Tracie Guy Decker. Yes, hyphen.
And I'm here with my sister, Emily Guy Birkin, but she does not use a hyphen.
And together we are doing Lightbringers, where we illuminate the deeper meaning of the crime-solving devil TV show. And yes, we're overthinking it.
Totally overthinking it.
Totally overthinking it.
So today, I'm really excited to talk about episodes 205 and 206, Weaponizer and Monster.
Mm-hmm.
These are some
excellent episodes.
Really good episodes.
Good TV.
Yeah, really good TV. So I like, it's hard to know even where to start. Like, I kind of want to start with really fluffy things because the Tom Ellis's guyliner game in these two episodes is really good.
On point.
So much guyliner. I kind of want to start there, but no. Okay. So let's do them in order a little bit. So, Weaponizer, we see there's a couple things that happen kind of for the first time. Like, so we really get to meet this new villain who has kind of a short arc, Uriel, the brother Uriel. And we also see Dan and Lucifer bond in a significant way.
First time.
I think is the first time they've actually like enjoyed each other's company. Over the body bag and Weaponizer movie. Franchises.
And I love how Chloe is like, yeah, can we stick to basics? Although this is oddly adorable. And they're both like looking at each other like, oh, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a moment in Weaponizer where Lucifer propositions Ella. And she actually seems down with it for a moment.
She thinks about it for a second.
Which like later in the series, like is like off limits. She even, and maybe she protests too much, but at some future point, she will refer to him like a brother. But in this episode, this early part of season 2, he's like, well, the bed in there, it's pretty skeezy, but I think it'll work. But don't tell the detective.
You are. We need to be discreet because this bothers her.
Like it. Right.
Yeah. So, well, I would like to talk about Uriel a little bit because I find his power fascinating.
The pattern recognition.
Because the first time I watched the episode, I'm sitting there and there's like some random dude moving a skateboard like 2 inches. I mean,
it was not far at all.
Barely moving it. So like she may well have tripped over it, because I was watching this time. I was like,
he really didn't move it far.
He didn't move it far, but just enough so that she actually hurts herself. I mean, not hurts herself, but she's going to get a bruise rather than just like, oh, this is annoying. And that was enough to send everything going. And so like, I'm watching this and I'm like, who is this woman? Okay, she's yelling at her son. There's the dog running out. What the heck is going on? And then, oh, this is what caused the accident. And that, like, I think that was just, well, for one thing, I have no idea how they choreographed it for the, and like, I know you get multiple takes. It's not like this is actually happening, but it was well choreographed scene that they did, because it required so many different elements to get right. So that was fascinating. And then the way that Uriel is able to use patterns kind of against the people he considers his adversaries is fascinating. And that also makes it make complete sense why he would be the one to say, like, I'm enforcing your bargain with Dad, because he can see the pattern of what's going to happen.
Well, and he says it, but it's interesting because the thing he doesn't want to happen is for Dad to forgive Mom, which is really, really fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's also interesting, just like in an overthinking it moment, I've spent some time looking at the names, which, also side note, I can't believe it took us this long to mention the fact that I share my second last name is the same as Chloe's.
Oh, yes.
By the way, my husband's family spent some time in the LA suburbs, so maybe we're related.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, sorry, that's really just a footnote because I don't have anything more to say about it. but I've been looking at names, and Uriel is a name that's actually from like old literature about there is an angel called Uriel. Amenadiel seems to, I cannot find any reference, like original reference. I mean, we've said this before, the source text for our show is the comic book. It's in the comic book. I can't find it in the source text for the comic book. Uriel means, as far as I can tell, it's from the word for light, and so it's the light of God, which is sort of interesting about illuminating patterns, maybe. And also as a foil for this like bad translation of Lightbringer or Morningstar. I don't know exactly where I'm going with that. But because I was looking at Uriel's name, I also was looking for Amenadiel, and as I said, I don't think it's hard to do because it's not actually, but from like amen, as in like may it be so, and it would have been like deal is more like DL, like of God, like God, so it's sort of like a, kind of like an amen to God. I guess you could make, anyway, sorry, this is a total tangent. But
no, it's interesting, and it makes sense since Amenadiel is the firstborn too. I mean, that's
it does. It does make a certain amount of sense if that is in fact, yeah.
And even if, like, this is one of the reasons why I love Neil Gaiman, is that he populates his fictional universe with things that are plausible and does the research to make it fit, so that if you do spend time overthinking things, you're like, it works.
Yeah. it's roughly, it resonates anyway. Yeah. But and one of the things that I think is really interesting about, especially when we look at these two together, Uriel as a villain, like his story arc is actually pretty short, where he's actually an actor, an agent in the action. And I think that there are those in the Lucy fandom who sort of call him kind of like stupid or like ineffective. But I actually think if we look at it from the bigger picture of the storytelling that's happening, it makes sense that we dispense with him pretty quickly, so that we can then really dig into grief and guilt and shame and like those very human emotions that we're actually interested, so that we take the story away from the action of like sword fights and bring it back to the very human action of like processing grief and guilt, which I think is really actually very interesting. And for those purposes, he's actually a very effective villain.
Oh, goodness.
In terms of setting up our characters to really investigate who they are.
Well, the other thing I think is helpful to think about with Uriel is the last thing he says before he dies, other than whispering in Lucifer's ear, is, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
And that bothered me. Because I don't particularly, that for whatever reason, that phrase does not resonate with me. I find it kind of cheesy. And because that phrase bothers me, I noticed that it pops up multiple times throughout the series. Like people say it a lot. Now, in this particular instance, I recognized in a writing sense, it being a satisfying last words for someone who's,
for the guy whose power is to recognize
patterns at pattern recognition. But I think that its use here and throughout the series is kind of part of the argument of the whole series, which is the importance of free will and choice.
Interesting. Yes.
And that's why, for whatever reason, it resonates with Joe or Ildy or whoever the writing team is that continues to use this. And so, and then that is also where, like, I don't think Uriel is stupid at all. I think he did not in any way anticipate how Earth and ruling hell had changed his brother.
I think just fundamentally he knew that Chloe was important to Lucifer. He underestimated just how important.
Yes. And I think it's in part because he does not understand humanity. Oh, sorry.
Agreed.
He just does not comprehend Earth, humanity, any of that. So like, he's, your cute little detective.
Exactly.
Although I will say, I would love to know the sequence of events that would result from pressing that one piano key that would lead to Chloe dying in 3 days. I'm like, how? And I like, I know.
Right. Because I mean, we saw him in the previous episode in the no, sorry, in the same episode, he like bumped somebody who was walking, made him drop his newspaper, and then that caused Chemo to see a kiss happening. So like we've seen how like the butterfly wing causes a war and on the other side of the world. We have actually seen it in this episode, those choreographed moments.
I just kind of wish I could see the Rube Goldberg machine of fate related to that. Not that I want to see her die, but I'm just so curious.
It's funny.
So yeah, that's what I find like.
There is something really I'm not even sure what what the right literary term is to have the two of them fight in that ruined church, which presumably was Uriel's choice of venue. Maybe that's not clear. But like there's something really there is something, I guess apropos is the word I'm looking for, to have this angel and fallen angel and demon like fighting over the fate of the goddess of all creation, and one human being in a ruined church. When Lucifer throws the baptismal font through the window, like I don't know, there's something really like satisfying about that. For me.
I think it was Lucifer's choice, because I took him throwing the font through the window as his signal to Maze that he needed her help.
Oh, maybe
because it doesn't. Otherwise,
they don't explain how she showed up.
Yeah,
so she has showed up to save him before. Yeah. So I just accepted that she was like keeping her demon tabs on him.
The reason why I think that was a signal is because there was no explicit reason for him to throw it through the window.
Yes, you're right. I'll buy that.
The other thing that I love about this episode is the point where Lucifer gets so angry when they're like, we don't know what Dad wants.
Yeah.
Because the selfish bastard won't tell us. And like, he is absolutely right. Like, everyone is doing things based on guesswork. And then that gets again to like the kind of overarching theme of free will. Like, there's a reason why God doesn't tell his children and humanity what is expected, what is wanted, or anything like that. And it's because the giving free will, allowing people to make their own choices, is such an important aspect of creation.
Yeah. Well, we come back to that again in the second episode that we're talking about, when the goddess, as Charlotte Rich, shows Amenadiel where Lucifer buried the body to encourage him to grieve. And he sort of, with tears on his face, says, God could have stopped this from happening. So we come back to that.
Yeah. And that gets to one of the reasons why I like Monster so much.
Yeah.
Even though in some ways it's a very brutal episode.
It is brutal. And
seeing like the wedding scene at the beginning, which is like, it's so funny and weird, but also like, once you find out that the bride is a makeup artist for Hollywood, like, oh, okay, I can see people doing that. I don't know how that would work, that you have everyone in zombie makeup, but okay, like, that's kind of fun. But it's supposed to be her wedding day, and boom, and then you meet Freddie Loomis, who just seems like a mensch. He just seems like a sweet guy who wants to cook for people. And like the way that he greets Detective Decker is like, you look like a Hagelschlag kind of girl. It's just like what a sweetheart. And boom, he's gone like that. It's hard to see. But it's the theme with that one of the shooter who he really wants to punish himself, and so he's doing horrific things, is comprehensible, if not understandable, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And they talk about that explicitly when Dan
Mm-hmm.
is feeling sympathy, and Chloe's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, I know you wouldn't start revenge shooting innocent people,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
there's something so real about the way, even the goddess even says it, that different people grieve differently, and the
Mm-hmm.
way that Lucifer is just acting out and like just like throwing himself into debauchery, but
Mm-hmm.
it can't last. And then he has
Yeah.
that moment while he's playing the piano and he just like has a breakdown and sends everybody out. And
Yeah. The song he's
um
playing is Unforgiven by Metallica.
oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I remember going like, I know that melody. What is that song? And I looked it up. So, and I was like, oh, good choice. So yeah, there's only so much of like distraction you can do. And the same way with the shooter, like he was displacing his grief, but it's not going anywhere. Like the only way to handle it is to deal with it. And that's actually one of the reasons why I so appreciate this episode, is because of the final scene when Lucifer shows Linda his face. And it's because this was the first time I really felt like I saw how well the show is with dealing with mental health. Because like there's there's just the text, which is like the devil shows his therapist his devil face. But then there's the subtext of like the fear that if you let people see who you really are, that they will not like you anymore. That is kind of terrifyingly made evident in this.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, and they lay it out when the scene before, Chloe says, every time you say you're evil or the devil or you're bad, like I know that's not who you are. And he's
mm-hmm,
like, you have no idea who I am or what I've
mm-hmm,
done.
mm-hmm,
And then the very next scene, he shows Linda who he
mm-hmm.
really is, and she cannot handle
She
it.
can't comprehend it.
She
Yeah.
cannot. I mean, she is catatonic as a result.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I think when well before we started actually recording Lightbringers, we were talking
mm-hmm,
about the show, and you said that about how that is a metaphor for the fear of showing who you really are to a therapist or a confidant or whatever, and
mm-hmm.
the fear of being rejected for it. And I was like, you're right.
So well, and that it reminds me of so I can remember right after Robin Williams passed away, um, there were comedians talking about the fact that when a comedian isn't funny in front of you, that means they trust you, because that like they can let you behind the like,
The thing they get praised for, sure.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And how this particular comedian who was writing about it was saying like, and oftentimes people will say like, where's the funny guy? And so you put the mask back up again. And that, because that was something, now we now know with Robin Williams, there was some medication that he was on that affected things, and there's no way of knowing exactly what's going on, but knowing like he did have demons, and someone who was able to bring such unadulterated joy to so many people, it like was fighting with demons. It's was important for me to understand that like what people present is not necessarily who they are. And it's important to like try to let people be who they are. And so like, and even though Lucifer always tells the truth, he's always saying like, I'm the devil, I like this, that's exactly what I am. He also knows nobody's going to believe him, so he can just he's still wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Almost literally. And the fact that in the same episode we have a similar situation where Maze shows Trixie her real face, and
Mm-hmm.
Trixie's response was like, there's that pause where you're like, oh dear. And you can see Maze being like, she's got the same look on her face that Lucifer had. Like, how's this gonna go?
Waiting
Before
for the other
Trixie
shoe to
goes,
drop.
yeah, and Trixie goes, cool. It was like the most heartwarming, wonderful, and like it is also still like there's still a mask there because it's Halloween. There's like, she's a child. She can't possibly recognize that that's impossible for her to have done that in the 2 seconds that she had her eyes closed.
Right.
But it's still just really, really heartwarming to see like there's acceptance.
I think it was also an important foil to what then happened with Lucifer and Linda, like to know that the possibility is there for acceptance. Yeah. Another overthinking it moment, speaking of Trixie, is in Weaponizer, when Trixie's like, read me this story, and Chloe's like, no, this is your bedtime story, and she's like, no, read it now. and so Chloe's like, what's going on? And she tells her, like, yeah. I'm sorry, as the parent of an only child who's about the same age as Trixie, like, that ain't how it works. Like, when your kid is acting out and you're like, what's going on? They're not like, well, here's what I'm worried about, mama. Like, it's just not how it happens. I mean, I know we needed to like keep
we needed to fit into a 45-minute show.
Also, even with the explanation that we got, like Trixie's scared for her mother's safety because her mom is a cop and grandma says it's dangerous and she was just in that car accident. Trixie watched her mom get like stalked by Malcolm in that warehouse
like just a few months ago,
and it's the car accident she's like freaking out about. Okay, all right, I'll just go with it, but
maybe she's just now processing what happened with Malcolm. I mean, that
actually seems more likely.
Yeah. Although, did you notice that the book is Coraline?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Neil Gaiman.
Yep. Yeah, there's the way that Trixie is written is like realistic-ish.
Right.
Because the whole like, I wanted to be a princess last year when I was 7. I'm 8. I'm a grown-up now. Like there's something to that. My 8-year-old, who's always wanted to be like his favorite like Ninja Turtle characters and licensed characters this year, it's like, I want to be something spooky this year, and so he went as Death with a scythe. Yeah. And like he was just like, I'm gonna scare so many people. I'm like, you're 3.5 feet tall. You're gonna be adorable.
I'm imagining a comic book written by Neil Gaiman about a little death, like not his death from the Sandman series, but like a new one, like with a little death who like constantly has like a Napoleon complex. Like, stop laughing! I'm here to take your soul.
So, and to be clear, my youngest is not 3.5 feet tall. I think he's 4'2", which is slightly better. But yeah, so that's like there's aspects that I think are really good in how they handle Trixie, the way that they handled Trixie with Maze.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. That's not how.
Yeah. She's not as fully formed a character as, I mean, there are definitely moments where Trixie is a plot device. And there are moments when she is, especially vis-a-vis Maze. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, speaking of Maze, so at the end of Weaponizer, he's killed Uriel. He shows up at the penthouse like just devastated. And we find out later he must have gone and buried the angel body. I guess Maze helped him. Like, where's Maze?
Yeah.
Like, she just, I don't know. I mean,
maybe they found the spot together and she did the actual work while he went back home.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, for the purposes of the show, like it needed to be a moment between the goddess and Lucifer,
mother and son.
And like Maze would have been a third wheel. And so I understand why she wasn't there kind of storytelling wise, but as just like following the events of the day. I think that she would have been there. I don't, especially like as devastated as he was, like she knew him really well. I don't think she would have left him alone.
Yeah.
He was like a wreck.
Gutted. Yeah. Although I think like I could see the burying Uriel being too much for him.
Yeah.
And her saying, I'll take care of this. You go back home.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
So like, you know, if he was like, I got to do this, and Jed, like they get started and she's like, no, you can't do this. Go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
You know, one thing that I noticed, and it's partially because I rewatched our first episode where I talked about the chest hair.
Yeah, I noticed too. They let it happen in
like,
this episode.
So I'm thinking like he just isn't manscaping because he's grieving.
Maybe.
Like I think that might be what's going on, because there's definitely missing in other, yeah, it's definitely missing in other episodes.
Definitely is. Definitely is.
So I mean, like, you know, he looks like a homeless magician. So I love the way that Chloe describes him as like, you know, because she's like, something's up with him, and Dan's like, something's up with him always. He's weird, and she's like, no, he doesn't have his usual glee for life. I'm like, yeah, that's a good way of describing how he usually is. Yeah, the him acting out, I find very compelling to watch, even though like it would be infuriating to deal with.
It would be very difficult to watch someone you care about behave that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, particularly if they're not telling you why. And so you don't have any like sense of how to process this. Like, are you just being a jerk? Are you like, you're clearly going through something? Is it something that there's something can be done about, or is it just,
Right.
Right. So, I do really appreciate, because she ends up being an antagonist, but the goddess in these two episodes, like you do see the caring parent in there. You know, the way that she comforts Lucifer. She offers to go back to hell. And it's a good thing that Lucifer didn't take her up on it, because Uriel was planning on destroying her. She comforts Lucifer, even though she's horrified. And she leaves him alone, because that's what he needs. He needs to be left alone. She recognizes that like he's going to grieve in this acting out way, and there's nothing I can do. Amenadiel is going to take on all the responsibility, because he's the oldest child, and that's what they do. And he needs to let go and be sad and grieve. And so I'm going to take him to Uriel's resting place so he can do that. And all of that, it's very, very good parenting.
I think she fulfills the pattern that Uriel named for her, right? Like he said, I know she's going to go up and he's going to take her, you know, he's going to forgive her. I mean, you did what, she'd been here 3 minutes, you know? So I think there's, yeah. And I think we had to have her kind of have some sympathy, like knowing what's coming, or else we wouldn't have tolerated her for as long as we do. If she had been like just
scheming the whole time. And then there's also like there's some relatability in I think it's in the Weaponizer episode, where she's on the phone as she's coming into her office, and she's like, yes, I understand children need to wear pants to school every day. And then when Maze comes in, she's like, the number of daily tasks that I need to complete is just impossible. And I'm like, oh, I feel better knowing the goddess feels that way too. Right?
Preach.
Although, and this is one of my fluffy things, the way that she looks in those long, like flowy pants.
Oh my God.
I
don't know if I want to be her or date her, because it's one of the two.
Well, it's part of it is just like, I'm just never gonna show my legs again because they're like so short and stubby, and she has legs that just go to the sky.
Everything, it's just like
Just
long
like
and
a long,
drapey and flowy.
it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. And then like,
Well,
and then she wears them again, or wears another pair with when
every outfit, the white with the blue
oh,
over, and yeah,
oh my goodness, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she's a little bit superhuman, that Trisha Helfer.
She really is. Yeah, I have a little lady crush on Trisha Helfer. Yeah. So the other little thing that I wanted to mention is in Monster, because that originally aired on Halloween in 2016, I think it was Halloween 2016.
I have it up on my screen right now. It was indeed October 31st, 2016.
Oh, yes. Nice. So that was, like about a week before I lost all hope in all things.
Right.
Less than a week. Time.
Less than a week. It was about 3
less
days.
than a week. So the it was on Halloween, so it was all Halloween themed. And one of the things they did was they used a lot of names that are Easter eggs from horror movies. So Edgar, for Edgar Allan Poe, could not figure out Peggy Russo, his bride. The Peggy's ex-boyfriend was named Jason Myers, which is a mashup of Jason and Mike Myers. The food truck owner, Freddie, his last name is Loomis, which is a common last name in like, it just is a kind of a trope last name in horror movies. And then the husband and wife doctor team, Jack and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas,
like the Corpse Bride. Oh no, Nightmare Before Christmas, the other Tim Burton one.
Yeah. And then, gosh, I know
Wes Williams is the killer.
Yes, Wes. So like Wes Craven. Yeah, it was like they really did a nice job of just kind of scattering those through. So several of them I realized as they happened, but several I'm not quite the horror aficionado to be like, oh yeah. But it was nice. It was like, I really appreciate it when writers do that kind of stuff. Just like they're entertaining themselves and giving us little Easter eggs. So,
yeah, cool. Well, I think maybe we overthink it enough for one day. What do you think? Yeah.
Do you have any? You had some fluff.
Well, we did the fluff. We did.
Oh, we did the fluff.
We did the hair, the chest hair, which was proof that he was letting himself go.
Yeah, it's no manscaping. Maybe hadn't showered.
And I talked about the guy liner game.
That was the other fluffy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. One other is that when Lucifer's trying out his new catchphrase, "Welcome to Devil Time." You're like, what does that even mean? She knows what it means. I have no idea what it means. And Charisma Carpenter's delivery.
I can't help but see her as Cordelia from the Buffy and Angel series. I mean, she's Cordelia all grown up, but yeah, she's I adore her. She's pretty cool.
I also like the at the end, the confrontation where she and what was the manager, the agent,
his name was Ryan Goldberg.
Yes.
Can we talk
and I was
about
just
that?
Like, no,
I mean, Ryan Goldberg, I think is mishpacha. I think he's a Jew of color.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering if
it's too bad he was like a bad guy, but
yeah.
But still
representation. Well, I was wondering if it was like they came up with the character name and then had colorblind casting and we're like, all right, let's go with it. Or
I liked it. I mean,
yeah. But so Ryan Goldberg like hides behind her.
Yeah.
When chemo shows up.
He totally does. He was pretty nebbishy, that Ryan Goldberg.
Yeah, he was a nebbish and a schnorr.
Yeah, a thieving one at that.
a thieving schnorrer. Yeah. So,
All right, I'm calling it.
all right.